we had a little technical. Nigeria and friends of Nigeria. Welcome to another episode, another edition of our podcast. Say prayer, guys, may Nigeria never happen to you. Okay, my name is Richie Adewusi. This is season 2 of this podcast, and this is episode 3, and it's about my Biafra story. But every story has a background, okay? So it's not just about me, but I'm making it about me because it's about individuals. Yeah, it's about individuals. It's about your story, my story. Then it becomes our story. So in this episode, we're going to look at different background, well, a number of background stories. Then I get down to getting you into my life. Then, you know why I'm telling this story? You see, most of these folks you see behind me here, a number of them are not around today to tell their story. So I'm telling this story on their behalf. If you like, I'm representing them. The gentleman behind me there, very interesting story too. I just mentioned him, but I feel that I'm not on this podcast alone when I have these two people, Hajia Mariam Aliyu and the doctor you have behind me there. They are victims, survivors if you like, but victims all the same, like myself, like many other Nigerians. We don't want another one. That's what this is all about. But is that what is going on now? No. I first of all want to take you through the kind of things that happen when the people who are supposed to be the custodians and guardians and mentors of the rest of us are misbehaving, playing games with people's lives. So to start this program, this podcast, I want to pay a tribute to a young man. A young man who put his life on the line and paid with his life for a madness instigated, sustained, perpetrated, and sustained by those who should be caring for such young people and everybody else in Nigeria, the religious fanatics in Nigeria, from whichever divide, from whichever denomination. Because Nigerians should be talking about development, not religion, not tribe, not language. To find common grounds. But that has failed repeatedly over time. If somebody like me is saying this, I'm sorry. I have remained unapologetic about the Nigeria. The young man you see on your screen, sorry guys on TikTok, you will not, as always, you will not see that picture. But if you go to our YouTube channel, yes, if you go to our YouTube channel, you see the picture. A young man, a young school boy who saw something suspicious and went to do something about it. A suicide bomber. He went, held the person with the suicide bomb, and the bomb exploded and took both of their lives. These are the sacrifices that some people have made, are still making, to say, can Nigeria and Nigerians find some sanity to focus on what's important? He died to protect others. Meanwhile, his fathers, grandfathers, our fathers, grandfathers are busy continuing the beating of the drums of war, drums of division, drums of destruction, drums of impunity. My way or the highway, our way or the highway. We've titled this episode Strange Bedfellows. You'll find out soon why. And to take you into the backstory of who these strange bedfellows are, how they got started, I want you to watch again a video I have played a number of times. Start of it, I don't hate anybody. I'm focused on issues. I'm focused on issues. History. The one they try to erase, the one they remove from the school curriculum because they didn't want you to know these things. Because they knew they were going to continue with them, continue to repeat them, and here we are. I wrote the book you see scrolling behind me, Biafra Lest We Not Forget, for the same reason. It wasn't because I was applauding any secessionist group or movement or individual. No. As a matter of fact, I wrote that book before anybody called Nnamdi Kanu became known to anybody. This book was released on January of 2011. I wrote in 2010. Does anybody in Nigeria know the name Nnamdi Kanu in 2010 or 2011? So it's not, let's speak to issues. Let's speak to issues. When individuals have, well, done things against the rest of us, let's talk about the individuals. Let's hold individuals accountable. Not religion, not tribe, not group, not region. Individuals. And those individuals have learned that the rest of us, they've learned, they've discovered our mumu buttons, as they would say. Eh? The soft spots, the part at which you tickle some people, nothing will happen. Touch them, some other people, yes, they know your mumu button. That, well, when they throw divisive banters, you face yourselves. Meanwhile, they are busy discussing how to share, divide, loot more, plunder more, destabilize more. I've read so many posts online where this rain start beating us, meaning beating us Nigerians. I will show you where it started in this video that we are going to play now. You've seen it before. If you want the truth, remove sentiments. Everybody, north, south, east, west, Christian, Muslim, forget party names, please. Forget Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Fulani, Edo. Think first as human beings. Unfortunately, somebody thought then as Nigerian, oh, but it was foolish. Now they're blaming him for so many. His own people, the people that say his people. He didn't see himself as saw himself as belonging to Nigeria. And unfortunately, those of us who think Nigeria first, the joke is on us now. We're the fools. So before you continue to say, well, I'm a destabilized Nigeria, I don't have ethnicity, I don't, just look in the mirror. The joke is on you. You're the fool. But is that the solution? To get disillusioned about, okay, even when, like I strongly believe now it is, time to talk seriously about, let the regions function semi-autonomously. Let Nigeria initiate, when we say go back at what time? Was it ever a federation? Really? It was never. We were trying to. Some people had that mind, some people didn't. And that's why I've called them strange bedfellows. They were all doing things, but each person had his own, agenda, hidden agenda. The agenda was never Nigeria, has never been. It's not, even till now, even at this moment. Make no mistake about it. So I'm going to let you watch again the interview with the Sardana of Sokoto, Sir Ahmadu Bello. Then I'm going to crave your indulgence, please, to watch another video, another interview. It's pretty long. But I crave your indulgence to please patiently listen. Even if you hate the people who are talking, listen to what we cannot know anything more than those who were involved. Most of us, the second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand information that we're bandying about. When you listen to people and try to apply our God-given reasoning capacity, remove sentiments, then by now you'll be asking yourself some questions. Come, that's true. What exactly is the problem? When you are done with the videos, we'll come back here and we'll look at issues. And you get to hear the chapter 1 of My Biafra Story. And then we'll take it from there. I really intend just to tell, but you need to have a background. You need to have an understanding that because you are at the table today or you are waiting to get to the table, to be part of the table, doesn't exempt you from the wind that has been sown, the harvest of whirlwind that is loading up. It's not story. The pictures you are seeing behind me here, we'll get there in this episode. Yeah, I will show you what I looked like at the time they were still playing their politics. Like you are now, your children are now, your grandchildren are now living, going about your business. Hey, nothing is happening. You're going about your business. We didn't know what was happening. My parents were going about their business, especially with children. All out, oh, it's Easter, it's Christmas, dress up nicely. That was it. I will show you what I looked like then, 1956. And then we'll take the story from there. Let's listen to Sir Ahmadu Bello, which for me is really the crystallization of where the rain started to beat Nigeria. Okay, when we return, we'll take it from there. So let's play the Sir Ahmadu Bello video, please. Hello, guys on TikTok.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or a permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, new to our region, but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers employed only in the two regions.
Watching that video, guys, on YouTube. What you heard was a policy statement that has remained. That's where it started. Instead of collaborating and partnering with other qualified Nigerians to grow every part of Nigeria, a leader, a father, a charismatic, it wasn't just a leader. I love to listen to that guy speak, but when I listen, but what are you saying? The courage, these people had everything going to have made Nigeria great. But they chose parochialism. They chose bigotry. They chose greed. They chose personal interest, not regional. Listen, you see that whole issue of northernization, the whole idea and concept of one north is fallacy. The whole idea and concept of one south is fallacy. Today, we have produced, like we always do, a video, but in it we featured one of Nigeria's, prominent musicians, Edna Woli, in her hit track then, 1 kilometer. What is 1 kilometer about? Every kilometer is another language. Even half a kilometer is another language. It talks about the cultural diversity of Nigeria, the complexity of that country, Nigeria. That those who step forward to lead should heed and, use to plan policies that would address all of those different aspects, members of. But what do I know? That's my dream. That's my headache. I had headache. Seriously, I had headaches as a young person growing up in Nigeria, thinking about why is this so impossible? I had headaches as a young man starting business, still in pursuit of that. We're Nigerian, things must happen. Not seeing tribe, not seeing, but people will look at you, they're laughing, even family members. One called me a bastard because my mother was Igbo, my father is Yoruba, a family member. Does it do anything to me? No, I feel sorry for him. So I feel absolutely sorry for him. But that is to tell you how deep this stuff is. This hatred. And I don't know why. Now, being industrious is a crime. Now, growth, personal drive is a crime. Can you see why things are not working in the North? You say, if an Igbo man comes to a labor camp, he wants to be the headman. What is wrong in striving to progress? So you now have a leader who is telling his followers that, no, you only sit where you are asked to sit. Eh? Just stay there, do what I asked you to do. That's where the rain started beating Nigeria, in case you people don't know. And don't take my word for it. I was born then. I wasn't, yes, I was born in 64 when I was around then, but I was a baby, I was a child. You will see what I look like in 66. I will show you in a moment. But you see that what Sardana said in that video, that was 1964. Well, the second coup in Nigeria, not the first coup. The second coup in Nigeria. The other one was a botched coup. The one that sent Chief Awolowo to prison was a coup. It was before 66. Let's understand this thing. I will come back to it when we have watched the next video. So I'm saying, don't take anything I'm saying here for it. Listen to the person that's interviewed in the next video. And please, I beg you, Nigerians, put sentiments aside. Listen to him. You know what? None of them is here now anymore. All of them are dead. All of us at some point too won't be here. But listen to the narrative, the description. If you allow your religious or your tribal hang-ups to block you, good. That has been blocking things and people have been behaving in very destructive ways as far as the issues of Nigeria are concerned. So I'm going to play you, it's long, I'm cautioning you up front, yes, an interview that Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu gave. I know I was hesitating whether to call him, is it General or Colonel, or so Chief is okay. Yes, at least they called him Ikemba, so he's a chief. So at least I'm sure of that one. I don't know, I'm not certain about which of the military ranks is the correct one, so I'm not accused of anything. But at least he was a colonel before everything started. Good. I want you to listen to that interview. Please. I had to listen to it several. I've listened. It's not just that I pick. I'm not interested in Hausa Igbo. No. Like I said, my interest is Nigeria. But unfortunately, sorry, those of you like me, we've been conned from day one. Nigeria is a dream of people like us. We're dreaming, but say Nigeria. But listen to the people who were there from the beginning, who understood the ones who were there, from who interacted with them, who saw them, who worked with them. You can't know better than these people. You can't. And at the point at which he was giving that interview, I don't know the reason for which he should be telling any lies. I'm not sure why he should be lying about anything. Besides, all of the things he said there, I have read, I have seen videos, I have looked at the archives, checked. But do you know what is more unsettling? The scenarios he described there, the issues he raised there, they are the ones center stage in Nigeria right now. Right now. January, today is the 30th of January, 2026. 60 years on here. You know, that's eye of the storm, the calm before, yes, that's why we. By this time, 1966, the January coup had happened. It had been pushed by Ironsi. By this time, 1966, Chief Obafemi Awolowo was in prison, in Calabar prison, for treasonable felony. What was his crime? He went to campaign in the north central, northeastern state, and some people felt he shouldn't be there. Whether he was framed or not framed, he was indicted and tried for treason and was sent to jail. This time, 1966, Chief Obafemi Awolowo was in prison. And who are the people who sent him to prison? The ruling government. And who were in charge of the ruling government? Samadu Bello, the Sardana of Sokoto, he was premier of the northern region. His agents, party member, let me not say use agent, his party member, that was Prime Minister of Nigeria, Sir Tafawa Balewa. They had convinced Chief Awolowo's deputy, Chief Akintola, to join. So technically, they had conquered the Southwest. But then the same people who have come in to divide the Southwest, to get somebody, a politician from the Southwest, to join their own party, are saying somebody else should not go to campaign, to let other people know that they are free to join any party they like. That was his treason. Whatever he did or didn't do to bring it to pass, I've read so many things, but the important thing is this was the scenario. Today is the 30th of January, 2026. Nnamdi Kanu is in Sokoto prison. If you listen to me, if you watched any of my podcasts, or read anything, I'm not a fan of Nnamdi. I don't hate him as a person. I have nothing against him as a person. But even he himself doesn't understand the Eastern question. He doesn't have a grasp of what the issues of Eastern Nigeria is. Not now to talk about Nigeria. Southeastern Nigeria is not Igbos alone. It was part of what caused them that war. I was there. I saw those dynamics play out even as a child, and I remember them. It was only now that I'm beginning to now realize, when I remember certain things that I saw, I'm like, oh, wow. So this was why this was happening. Yeah. Why is Nnamdi Kanu in prison? But his language, what is freedom? So why don't you? Freedom of speech is treason. Meanwhile, certain people are saying that Nigerian government should pay terrorists should put terrorists in the Nigerian budget to pay them to guide the forests. Their comments are not treasonous. You would see if this aligns with anything you're going to hear in the next video now. If you got, I mean, Ojukwu is not here now. He's dead. That video was made how many years ago? But listen to what he's going to say and then come to think of what is going on now. Somebody was appointed, whether rightly or wrongly, to be INEC chairman. No, remove him because he's not dictating. This was what happened. This is what must happen. You did northernization, took federal resource to booster, please, to booster the northern elites, not the Fulanis. Please, I don't agree with anybody who continues to, push forward this is the Fulani, which even the Fulani itself, from history, they don't even agree amongst themselves. They have two groups, in case you've forgotten. The town Fulani and the cattle Fulani. It's history. And those divisions are still there. The only thing that's happening now is that the so-called town Fulanis, who are the politicians, the elites, are using the cattle ones now as terrorists, as bandits. But those ones are happy to say, yes, we are. No. Now, what about the ordinary Fulani people that are, how many, is it every Fulani that is affluent? No. That's even the, now, let's go to the north. Not what, there's nothing like one north. It suited somebody's political whims. It doesn't exist. Historically, there were 7 Hausa states. What happened to them? Are subjugated. I'm going to have an understanding that the time for subjugating anybody has passed. It's not possible anymore. And if you still want people to subjugate, and for clarity, the challenges of, you will hear it in Ojukwu's interview, for clarity. What is known today as North Central Nigeria has been a hunting ground for slaves, for farm produce, for livestock, for supplies of jihadists. From the Sokoto Caliphate, or the Kanem-Borno Empire to the northeast. And those are still the 2 parts of Nigeria till today. That is the problem of Nigeria. It's not the generality of Fulanis, it's not the generality of Hausa. Let's get this. It is the people who still believe that unless they dominate others, that they don't exist. Which is the biggest problem they have with the Igbos. In case you've not gotten there, that's the biggest problem they have with the Igbos. You can't dominate the Igbos. It's not possible. Their biggest crime is their no interest in embracing Islam. So they must be made to, made inconsequential. If you are making them inconsequential and they say, okay, let us go our own. Now you said no. Why? You are enjoying who you are, so stay with who you are. And some people are making fun. Yesterday I read them on Facebook. Let's even say, let the federal government even just say, okay, you people can go your way. Let's even say whether they will take it. No sense of equity, no sense of empathy, no sense of fairness. None. None. But like I said, don't take my word for it. Let's listen to Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu. Then we'll come back. Okay? Don't go away. Please. I crave your indulgence. Please watch the video to the end. Thank you. Hi guys on TikTok. I didn't abandon you again.
Thank you. The questions we are going to ask, I'm going to ask it. Number one, a lot have been written about the 15th of January 1966 coup. The most erroneous being that it was an Igbo coup, which gave the Hausas or the northern Muslims the pretext to attack the Igbos. Please enlighten the world on events of the January 15, 1966 coup. Who carried out the coup and for what reasons?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to try and enlighten people on this coup that seems to be at the center of subsequent problems in Nigeria. The coup of January 15th, 1966 was actually led by Major Ifajuna, and he commanded the activities in the south, and Zogo, another major, coordinated the northern side of it from Kaduna. The reason for the coup, if you remember, Nigeria became independent in 1960. We had a government, a quasi-Westminster type government with a parliament and a ceremonial president, reflecting, as it were, the Queen of Great Britain. That was Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Tafawa Balewa was the president from the north. Now, the real problem with Nigeria has always been the imbalance of the federation that is and was known as Nigeria. I remember when I was at school, I was taught that the great thing about a federation was that no federating unit should ever be preponderant over the others. As it happened, the Nigerian Federation, when it was created, was given down to Nigerians from London. And that federation contained the imbalance of the North being preponderant, in fact, over the two other sides, the West and the East. And this created, right from the first day, a certain degree of friction. The North could dictate, and the South, whichever part of the South, could just complain if it's not in accord with what the North wished. The first few years of independence were not too bad, but there were a lot of unfulfilled ambitions of the Nigerians, because in those days we thought that once you got independence, you were free and everything worked, and you joined the higher league of nations internationally, discussing what went on. In fact, to Nigerians it looked as though, and indeed they tended to show, that independence in itself was the achievement. Now Nigeria was free, us were a member of the world. Instead of looking upon it as the beginning of our journey to nationhood. And I say this, and I want to underscore it. Nigeria was not, has never been a nation. We had the aspiration, hopes that Nigeria one day would become a nation. And that has been elusive up till today. The reason being that, most unfortunately, the powers in Nigeria were concentrated in the hands of the North, which was preponderant, and wrongly so. At independence, we hoped we would be able, in fact, the three leaders of the country had different notions of independence. There was the actual leader of the struggle for independence, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, who rightly thought that independence now created, as it were, a beginning, but that we were already a nation and we were now finding our positions in his own philosophical, political beliefs in Pan-Africanism. So we just had to move into the broad continental alliance. The North, under the Sultanate of Sokoto, whose agent was the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, felt that the Nigerian nation one had to tread very slowly, because he saw and they saw a great deal of inequities in Nigeria, and perhaps the most important then was the level of education between the North and the South. And therefore that affected, of course, the position of the North, or Northerners, in the bureaucracy of Nigeria. The Sardana and the people of the North got down to trying to build up the North, taking everything they could from the Federation to build up the North to a position in their minds of equality between themselves intellectually and the rest of Nigeria. The West, under Chief Obafemi Awolowo, thought likewise and took the position of consolidating the West so as to ensure that at a given time the West would then emerge superior to either the North or the East. Again, let me go back to the problem of the East. The East entered independence having accepted that the nation was already there. Naturally, the concept of nationhood implied a great deal of sacrifice by the East at all points. First sacrifice, the non-emergence of Dr. Azikiwe as the first executive leader of Nigeria. He vacated the place. He made the sacrifice so that the North could be accommodated. Second, very simple. During the constitutional conferences, independence was offered Nigeria before 1960. But to be able to accommodate the North, that Dr. Azikiwe believed was already part of a nation, we got this rather odd situation where a nationalist refused independence to wait for the North, and so on. Yet, your question, sir, was the question of the reason for the coup. So let me go into it. the teething problems of Nigeria after 1960, the independence, manifested itself in a number of ways. There was a friction over the preponderance of the North. There was certain difficulties about religious beliefs in the country. There was corruption, bad administration, and so on. But the real problem came from the West, which by 1966 was really in turmoil. And the reason was quite a simple one. Where does a leader lead from? In the North, the Sadana led from Kaduna, in the North. His agent was in the South, Prime Minister. Awolowo for the West believed his position was better and he would be have greater effect on Nigeria if he ruled from the Federation. So he looked towards Lagos. And his deputy, Akintola, he was quite prepared to leave the West too. But a funny thing happened during the election. A funny thing happened. Dr. Azikiwe, who also opted for the Federation, won the election in the West. And it now looked as though an Igbo man was ruling in the East, ruling in the Midwest, and about to rule in the West. And this was not acceptable to the West. We started our problems there because overnight the victory of the NCNC in the West was nullified by a number of Yorubas crossing from the government to the opposition side and creating a new government. And this actually is at the foundation of the distrust between the Igbos still now and the Yorubas. Now, law and order broke down in the West after the second election. There was so much rigging. In fact, BBC had this rather wonderful statement. It said that men became pregnant overnight with votes. Because, you know, we wear these huge robes and you can stuff as many ballot papers inside them. And as a result of that, and because by then Awolowo was in jail for treasonable felony, it was felt that the North used its powers to ensure that Akintola, who became their stooge, won the election. It became very dangerous to travel around the streets of Lagos or the West, anywhere. That's when they started throwing acid at people in the streets, in your car, the phenomenon known as wet here. That is wet in wet here. Throwing acid on people. And it was to halt this, actually, that the military was pulled out of barracks to help stabilize the situation. And this went on. We were not moving anywhere. The countries were becoming independent. We were seeing Julius Nyerere creating personality in Africa, Nkrumah there, and so on. Nigeria is big, and with all the promise of independence, was clearly doing nothing. It was then that a group of young officers. Now let's get it straight. The young officers had within Igbos, Yorubas, and Hausas. The way the Nigerian army was structured, you could not escape a preponderance of Igbo officers. And these were at the middle level because they were essentially majors. By then I was a lieutenant colonel, so I wasn't part of it. I was then commanding a battalion in Kano. The coup ostensibly, because I've later found out that the whole aim of the coup was to halt this apparent drift in Nigeria. But significantly, you know what they wanted to do? To create a presidential commission of army officers as a safeguard to the people who would guard the nation and hand over government to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. The idea was to release him from prison, make him prime minister, and in the hope that Nigeria would become a better place. That is actually how.
So it was really the Yorubas and their leader that were going to benefit
absolutely.
from the coup, not the insinuation that it was an Igbo coup.
No, certainly not.
Okay. Your Excellency, we have
And not only that, and I think because a lot of things have been said about this.
Yes.
Who actually halted the coup? Aguiyi Ironsi in Lagos, an Igbo. Emeka Odumegwu in Kano, an Igbo. The Igbos halted the coup. How can it be at the same time an Igbo coup halted by Igbos? There's something odd about that.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The next question is, on May 29th, July 29th, September 29th, 1966, genocide was committed against the Igbos. Will you let the world, through this medium, know the extent of this genocide? We know you established the Onyuke Commission that looked into these genocidal acts. What were his findings, some of them that you can let the world know?
Well, that's no doubt. I mean, the findings, the report.
Okay, the report.
The report is available, can be bought by anyone. It's been circulated all over Nigeria. It's not hidden. The first massacre of Igbos in the north, we could, in that report, it was stated that the first coup was 50,000. Then, later in the same year, the universal massacre that took place across the whole of Nigeria, including the north and parts of the west, we're talking in terms of 700,000 killed. So if it's figures we're looking into, certainly they were very heavy. But when we're talking of genocide, it's intent that really matters. What was the aim of that? And it was very simple, and the language might make people shudder or remember. It was to impose the final solution to the Igbo problem in Nigeria. That is, when there are no more Igbos in Nigeria, then there will be no problem. I think if one thinks back, sometime you will know who used that term, referring to who.
Wow, that was a long one. It was a long one, but I want to believe that you agree with me that it makes sense. I mean, watching the video. Now, remove any sentimental colorations. review what you had in that interview to put it side by side to what the situation in Nigeria is now. You have a group called the Sharia Council demanding that somebody that has been appointed, when that man was appointed, it's not every Nigerian that wanted him or whatever, but other people were, well, okay, so long as he does the right thing, okay, let him go on. No. But what is your reason for wanting him removed? The tax law, a lot of people are not. We say I'm going to do an episode on the Nigerian tax, and then for a reason. You know, I think I mentioned it here before. I've come to an understanding now. Well, not an understanding. I'm resigned to the notion in my head that a whole lot of things I've gone through in life, that I'm experiencing in life, is just that I'm put there to experience them for a purpose. I've lived in this place now for some years. I keep saying, I repeat it unabashedly. I'm not living here. I'm here because of this book you're looking at behind me. Yeah. The same group feel that I must be supporting one group, just like some people will feel I'm doing this program because I'm not clapping for anybody. I'm saying people should grow up, be human, be humane. Think about others, accommodate others. Let others accommodate you, but not in you forcing yourself. Leave your ways, leave them to live their ways, but pursue common ground to grow the country. Why would Nigeria be instituting a Sharia accounting code? Well, Muslim would also say, why would Nigeria be crazy? Well, until those things began to be foisted and talked about, and I didn't really notice whether any monetary system that was running was from one side or no one side. If something is working, what's the problem? Why can't we focus on functioning things instead of bringing some parochial interest into everything? And now, the alternative that that is the same group breaking up Nigeria is sacrosanct. What are you doing to unify? You are doing absolutely the opposite. Nobody is forcing anybody, at least as far as I know, to become Christians with gun, with machetes, with no, I don't know of it in Nigeria. I don't know anywhere else. I don't see church leaders gang up, stand up, and Christian leaders say, "Oh, if this doesn't happen in Nigeria, nothing will work." I never see. And meanwhile, I think they should begin to talk themselves too now, because that's what you are. But so that I don't get carried away, I'm here to tell my Biafra story, so I'm about to start. I want you to see what created the Civil War, that created this unfortunate pictures that you're seeing here, that impacted me, that got me to several years after. I resisted telling the story for so many years because I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to leave out, what not to leave. At that young age, the memory, I remember everything. It took my son. I keep saying it. There's a mark on my forehead. Yes, it's a dot. Okay, it's this side. One is this side, it's here. Another one is you know. There are marks left on my forehead, like palm front, you know, the palm tree, palm oil tree. The fronts in the villages then, back then, okay, go for firewood hunting. Of course, the dried ones, good source of firewood. So we had to pull it down. So the other children that I was with, you know, trying to gather firewood, they would try to run away. They were afraid. I said, firewood, palm front, you come down. What? I held it, pulled, and it landed on my head. One spine buried deep in this hole here, another one toward the other side. That spine that got buried in my head, all of it was never completely removed. You know why? Lack of the medical processes, facilities to have been. By the way, that incident happened in a refugee camp. I will get there in my Biafra story. It was in a refugee camp. I wasn't the refugee in the camp. My aunt was a volunteer nurse in the refugee camp and came to my mother and appealed to her to take me to be with her as she did that job in that camp. In another, I will come there and say, whole chapter in the book. So I didn't need the firewood. I was helping children from other places who are in that camp, who are refugees. I was living with my aunt, you know. So I didn't need the firewood. I didn't cook. She didn't cook. I think they had a central kitchen. But it was in the process of helping other children that this happened. I've not stopped helping, and I won't stop. It's not about anybody. So, you had Oju. It was about what the North wants and the South must obey. And they continue that way, they continue that way. Look, before I show you a picture of myself about that time, I'm going to show you another two sets of pictures. One is in recent times. One was before the year I was born, but before I was born in 1959. But that picture was taken, I think they say it was around July or so, 1959. The first set of Nigerian military officers. Please, guys, if you can put up those two pictures, the pictures of the people who are being tried for coup now, and then the picture of those. I want you to see, take note of, you see, when people are deceiving you to say this was Igbo, this was this group, that was that group, what has changed now? What has changed? The picture you had, the black and white picture, was the very first set of Nigerian military officers. Chief Ojukwu said something about preponderance of Igbo officers. It was all about education. It wasn't because anybody, manipulated any groups to become they went to school. Has anything changed in Nigeria now? So what they did from that interview that Ahmad Bello did was to work at reversing this forcibly. Not through due process, no, not through getting people to go to school, graduate, qualify, follow their rankings. No. So you understand this whole thing hasn't changed. It's loading, still loading. See, well, if you think that by any long chance that what was tried in October of 2025 was the end, is a lie. If you think that these officers, these people that are unfortunately lined up here, I say unfortunately because somebody radicalized them. Just like somebody radicalized the people of the same January 15, 1966. Somebody radicalized the one for July 1966. It's the politicians. Yes. But let's not forget, let's not abandon the trend. Look at those early officers. They were there by merit. They studied, they were there. Ojukwu was there, Ironsi was there. All of the other ones now who had become troublers of Nigeria, none of that picture. So what they did in July was to level the ground by killing their... Understand this. What they did in July 1966 was to intentionally decimate the senior officer corps. And when I say South, it's not just Igbos. In that interview, you heard Ojukwu say that the first person they killed wasn't an Igbo man, but he was from the South. So for anybody in the South, in case you people don't get it, if you are Igbo, was killed on Kata Bridge in Lagos, not in Kano or Kaduna. Strange bedfellows. Is it loading up again now? What is happening about investments, structures of people from the southeast part of Nigeria in Lagos? What's happening? What's happening to streets? I will come to the issue of the Civil War. What happened to streets in the present day Rivers State? I'll come to that. Why so much hatred? Why? Nigeria is paying for it, because if you are saying that being industrious, being hardworking is a crime, you can progress. It's as simple as that. So everybody is focused on a bubble called national cake. The people who have not depended on that national cake to get going, you are beefing them. We say we are not part, we can't benefit. Let us go now. You say no. Why? And some people are making jokes. Hey, let the federal government even just let them go. Let's see if this means you don't get it. Some people were probably making jokes then too. Okay? The picture you are going to see on your screen now, guys on YouTube, was myself and my immediate elder brother, who in the present day Nigeria now got to join them to become part of them as vice president of the Nigerian Labour Union. The picture you're going to see is about myself and himself in 1966. Yeah, I'm the stylish guy with my hand in my pocket. That's me. Just truly, just fit you. Now, we didn't know what was happening. We go to school, we were dressed up, we were about to travel to visit our grandparents. We'd always love to do that. For anybody who understands, who knows Nigeria, who knows Port Harcourt, follow me. I'm not telling you this story to show off in any way. I want you to understand that your passiveness now is not going to help you, whether you, your parents, or whoever. No, it's not going to. Please leave that picture there. Thank you. It's not going to help you. That picture was taken in front of our new house at 14 Igboukwu Street. If you go to River State, if you go to Port Harcourt now, they've changed the name of that street. So the name changing thing didn't start with Lagos. They're copying some people. They're following a form book, a playbook. That was a new house that I moved to. It's in the suburb. It's called D-Line, Job, Ontario, Port Harcourt. Before then, we lived downtown, Agri Road. For anybody knows Port Harcourt, I don't think I changed so much. It's been a long time I've been to Port Harcourt. Agri Road was boisterous, noisy, commercial business. So we lived. So things looked up for family, and we also became, okay, moved. So this picture was taken, we were going, I think it was Easter, 1966. Everything looked normal still. Remember the coup that happened? The coup, the January, nobody, nothing. By that time too, Hajia would also, they were still, I don't know her personally, but I listened to her story from the Puta panel. Okay? I could relate to that story because even as a child, I knew Port Harcourt, even at this age that you are looking at on your screen. We went to school. Then, before the war, we went to school. We played around with our friends. Before we started living at Agri Road, we lived at Harbour Road. So I knew, the neighborhood, school, friends, football, go to the creeks, pick periwinkle, even to the chagrin of our mother. It was always a problem. What did people go to do? We'll go to, it's not that there's no periwinkle they can buy, but we just children, we'll just go to the marshes. One day I was almost gone when the waves returned. When at the time the sea will recede, everything will look, although it's still marshy, but we could keep going, and before you know what is happening, the water is all over you. It doesn't come like a wave, it just starts rising. That day I was almost gone. I was shaken till I got home, and my mother got to know what happened, and of course, you know what will follow. That's the life we live there. Carefree, just like any children right now. Oblivious of the arm twistings that were going on between our fathers, our grandfathers. The strange bedfellows. You had Ojukwu. There are three of them. Three individuals that could have at least agreed on some common. The Igbos are blaming Zeke till tomorrow for what. If you are looking for solutions, how does that make you a coward? No. But then they took him for that. Okay, don't be afraid. We can do this together. We are in this together. We can take the prime ministership. Then it became that is a title, an entitlement. It became, the Igbos betrayed the Yorubas. If you listen to that same interview, they were politicking, convincing people with their programs and all of that. This was a Zeke won in Lagos. And the abandonment started again. People crossed over. Has crossing over and wanting to not focus on developing, letting people develop at their own paces, letting people focus on being accountable happen, instead of when you come here, everything is okay, you just give you everything you want, you don't mind. That has continued. So it didn't start today. And it hasn't solved any problem. It has created more. So as at the time that picture you just saw was taken, I'll repeat, Chief Obafemi Awolowo was in prison for treasonable felony in Kaduna prison. Facilitated by the government of the day, the NPC, controlled by Sir Ahmadu Bello and Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa in Lagos. It was one Nigeria. Then, the whole issue of northernizations, take federal and it ended up in, when you take people who are not, like we said about the Nigerian army, first of all, what would have been the rationale, if not for what is intentional, deliberately done? Why were southeastern military officers, about 300 of them, killed in one night? To create room for unqualified people to, go and check the names of the people in that picture there. All the people who are stalwarts in in the Nigerian military or political. By the way, in case you've not realized, the strongest political party in Nigeria since July 1966 is the Nigerian military. In case you don't realize it. Yeah. Even from that interview of Ojukwu, what did they say? Form a military, whatever, then take a civilian. Yeah, no election. No, it's what they decide. Okay, so we'll talk about what makes sense in all of this and what doesn't make sense and what has not changed. Okay, Chief Awolowo seems to be the one that's talking sense amongst all of them, or what? Okay, however it goes, he's still a Southerner. But then, what really is the most painless, is the painless way to cure cancer? There's none. At some point, whoever is in Aso Rock, there will be somewhere that person comes from. It shouldn't matter. Focus on merit. Focus on performance. Focus on delivering positive development outcomes that benefit the general population. It wouldn't matter where you come from. But that's not it. That's why Nigerians will clap for indicted criminals to continue in governance. From the Senate to, they found how many millions of both dollars and pounds and naira in someone's property in Ikoyi, southwest Nigeria, southwest Lagos. That person escaped, disappeared, only to reappear in the nomination list for ambassadors in this present administration. What are you telling other people? Somebody sent me a list yesterday. List of new central bank directors. Over 80%, why am I even saying that? Up to 90% of the names on that list are Yoruba names. My name is Adewusi, by the way. Yes, his name. Me, I have no interest in, my interest is in, can you get this thing done? That's it. And that's how it should be. So we cannot, Nigerians cannot continue to point fingers at one side. And meanwhile, you're doing the same thing. Let me try to put this in a package. He said that thing, those things that Ahmad Bello said in that video, northernization, well, they took it from northernization to Nigerianization. The opposite is what is happening now. The exact opposite, and I would explain. The exact opposite. The same mindset, the same strategies, but in a different direction. That is what I mean by opposite. So Ahmadu Bello created a super northern elite class, not Fulani class, please. Please. From the military to the civil service. The person there now has read their phone books, has looked at it. I don't support for any time. I don't for many reasons. I'm not supporting. It's my decisions, for you have your opinion, I have mine. And my opinion, your opinion can be in the wind. Mine is not in the wind. Documented issues, even to me, my person. From his administration when he was a governor of Lagos, himself and his wife, documented in a book. My last book, the last book I released last year. Promise kept, my friend Majek Fashek and I. Documented there, it's not the sea. So, but that's not, so I'm not surprised. I can't be surprised at anything they will say that administration did in the corrupt spectrum. It can't surprise me at all. Okay? You cannot give what you don't have. They can't change. It's not possible. But he's the one there now. You see, this has always been my issue. For however he got there, he's there now. What is wrong with, if you are laundering yourself, make the laundry complete now. Do the right things for everybody. For everybody. Stop firing up a section of Nigerians against the other section. Stop going to look for foreign. You see, all of you that are clapping for foreign intervention in what you don't. Anyway, you don't read, you don't follow history, you don't go and check what state Libya is in today. Go and check what state Iraq is in today. Go and check what state Syria, Sudan, Somalia, former Yugoslavia, all those countries, well, former Yugoslavia. Go and check what state they're in today. They're not going to come to help you for free. You are complaining that it's colonial masters that put you together. You shouldn't be together. It's a creation of Britain, but you are happy to invite another colonialist with a different favor to be the one to decide for you how you should solve your problems. It's obvious that Nigeria needs to work with a regional profile. Yeah. Country, region. I live in Canada. Canada is a huge country. With some of the provinces having some of the same issues that you have in Nigeria. But they find ways to politically come together to get their issues resolved here, get our issues here resolved, and move on and deliver development to the people. There's never going to come, even in the US. Even in the US. So, you see, what President Trump has done is to bring to the fore. Okay, why has his support base not shrunk? It can't shrink. You know the reason? There are people who have been craving for somebody who would come to subjugate others that they once subjugated themselves, but they couldn't do anything about it themselves. So they're happy. Somebody comes to say, sit back here. You are nobody. It's us. Yes. It's us. That's everywhere. And when they were going to do that election in the US, I'm like, okay, if this happens, the world is in trouble. What has happened? Because what is happening in the US is reverberating globally. There's a certain level of rascality that can, because the only country before now that could say, hey, that should not happen there, and everybody will say, what's the US? Why? Not because of their military might. No, it's because of their democratic principles. Yeah. So, Nigeria, sit. In this book you're looking at behind me here, I said about this time last year, oh, there's only one thing I said in that book that has not happened. No, it's only one, because even that one that I was saying that has happened now. They were denying that was not going to be. I said in that book that 16 years ago, I said in that book that, look, if politicians get to a point where they don't get what they want, they would engineer social crisis and invite their friends in the military to come to take over, so that those who feel shuffled out can come back and then get back to the fore. That was what they tried to do in October. It wasn't any revolution. It wasn't for any national interest. It was to reposition a group. That was not what happened in January, or on January 15, 1966. No, that's not the same thing. Chief Obafemi Awolowo was not an Igbo man, and that coup was not an Igbo coup. Even look, people have been saying, why didn't they try? Why did they give Zogo a state funeral? Why did they? They were all in it. They were all in it. This one now that these people are being tried, they were all in it. It's just that these people have got caught. What did they say initially? There are some officers are being detained because they failed an exam. The exam was cool. They were all in it. Right now, why are they being tried in the military? Why are they being no? Shouldn't be court martial. This is a democracy. They should be tried in a regular court. And for the records, please, let's stop doing this. Is Igbo coup? Is Hausa coup? Is Yoruba coup? Is Northern coup? Let Nigeria and Nigerians begin to learn how to hold people accountable for their actions or inaction. Stop lumping people together. Those officers, if they are found guilty, there's something they signed up for. Yeah. Am I happy that to say they should kill them? But then they knew what they were doing. They knew what the result of if they were found guilty. Yeah. But to somebody now to say, okay, it's yes, some people radicalize them. Find those people who radicalize them. It's not just about those officers. No. And for you to think that that is the end of it is a lie. It took 6 months. By this time, 1966, Nigeria was kind of quiet, but people were planning behind and woke up one day, went on a killing spree of Southeastern Army officers and civilians that didn't know nothing, that had nothing to do with whatever anybody did on January 15th. You know what the difference now is? I've said it severally. The rest of Nigeria don't know anything called war. They don't understand it. Even the people who are living in IDP camps right now, as unfortunate as it is, it's not the same thing. And you have those northern leaders not ashamed that in your region, you have Nigerians, the one you are calling not that will vote for you, that you will say one not, are living in refugee camps in your region. And you can go home and sleep. Why? Because it's not an accident. They are fodder. They are game. You've taken over their properties, displaced them. They have nowhere to go back to. 10 years, some of them. Some other people are living on their land in your region, and you are talking about, so you want to extend the same thing to the south. I'm not tribal, I'm just asking for the people in the south. That's what you want to do. That's why you're advocating that terrorists should now be guardmen. The government should do the right thing. Even those who government are paying to guard pipelines, you should stop. You have security agencies. That's their job. If you let development benefits get to people, nobody will be talking about going to vandalize. Nobody will be talking about carrying whatever. But when people are being deliberately radicalized for political reasons, other than development reasons, you're not educating your people to become this, be able to solve this problem, be able to solve that problem, is to be able to go and hold spaces for you. And when they hold those spaces, what have you done with those spaces over the years? Nothing. You put people like me in pain. You see from that picture, we didn't live in that house for more than 1 year. My mother got smart. My father had to leave because it was not safe for a Yoruba man, like the case of Hajia, to be there. People were retaliating for what was happening in other parts of North. They didn't start it. I'm not supporting anybody. It's affecting my family. My father had to leave. And that's how come we remained in Southeast throughout the period of the Civil War. And when I wrote this book here, Biafra, Lest We Forget, my friend, my brother, Niyi Akinshiju, were at the University of Lagos together. He was the student union president towards the end of our program. I was a hall official. He was the student union president. As a matter of fact, his administration commissioned me to present a play for one of the student union weeks that time, and I wrote a play called Fragile Fury, which portrayed the trial of civilians in military tribunals under the Buhari Diabon regime in Nigeria. That's another story. That was another issue. It's been long. Yeah, it's been long. So when I wrote Biafra, Lest We Forget, we met, my friend Akinsi and myself. And I was like, okay, rapidity, Richie. In case he has forgotten, we met. There's a place in our home in Abuja then. I would leave home. We used to live on a street called Michael Jackson Street. They changed the name to Michael Jackson Street. We're still there when the name changed as well. So there's a place I used to go to. I just leave home, just want to be in the midst of boys, to watch football. And we met at that place, usually in a rowdy place. And I met Nate there, and we started talking. I just written a book, and I invited him to write the preface to the book because I knew he, I think, studies political, it was a history of political science, yes. And he accepted. Guys, could you just, put up for me a portion of Niyi Akinsiju's preface to this book, Biafra, Lest We Forget. I am putting this up here for a couple of reasons. The drifts, the lack of principle or philosophy in most of us we drift to where the grass is greener without, as at the time we were at the University of Lagos, this guy who wrote this thing was president of student union. The student union was very vehement opposed to that military regime that time, led by General Mohammed Babangida and Tunde Diabo. During that same time, the net building on Marina in Lagos caught fire, was burnt. If you read Promise Kept, my friend, my dear friend, I narrated an incident where I said, look, we are not going, we are not marching. I came here to read. My friend Kaode Fayemi later became governor and minister in Nigeria. Like, Richie, we are disappointed. Somebody like, why should you be stopped? Okay, we didn't come here to. We want people to march from the University of Lagos to Marina with police armored tankers already at the gates. How many people will be killed? My father sent me here. Now, this is not to show I was tough. No. Now, but those are the people now who are The same person, I'm not talking Fayemi. Well, Fayemi was also close to Buhari anyways. Now, the same person, when the tenure of Muhammad Buhari came, he set up what he now called the Buhari Media Organization. Rooting for people you know from time have been the problem. But please, this is what he wrote as part of his preface in my book. I'll read it. In the ordinary sense, the author of Biafra Lest We Forget would have been the most unlikely talebearer of Nigeria's 30-month civil war. In the Nigerian patrilineal family structure, the children lay claim to the geographical origin of their fathers. Instructively, the maternal kins claim to the child is limited to part of biological birth. In this light, it will sound rather fortuitous that Richie Adewusi, the author of this eyewitness account of the Nigerian Biafra War, found himself spending the better part of his adolescent. It wasn't adolescent, it was childhood life. I just didn't correct all of this. It was his writing, there's no point. I was a child, I wasn't an adolescent. A 7-year-old cannot be an adolescent. The war messed up my life. That's the point. And you guys are doing it again for other children growing up now. All in the name of position, power, money. Adolescent life in the battlefields of this. Yes, I was in the battlefield. You got to hear my story. Even at my age. Not that I carried gun to go, but you hear. Richie is Yoruba of the southwest region of Nigeria. His mother is Igbo of the southeast region of the country. Incidentally, of the ethnic group that engaged Nigeria government in a war that was supposed to protest perceived, supposed to. Like I said, I left this. This is opinion. It's documented history. It is supposed to. Ojukwu did not start that war. The Igbos did not start that war. They responded in self-defense. There was an agreement. Let us stay in the regions and function from regions. Some people broke that agreement. The same people who are insisting now that Sharia should spread and their bedfellows are the people in the Southwest. I am from the Southwest. You have read it there. I am not interested in region. I'm interested in fair play. I'm interested in equity, in fairness, in merit. How do you have a region of the country ignored, removed from any serious decision making at the center for almost 60 years? For what? For lies? They didn't start that war. They didn't conduct it. It wasn't the coup. The person that the military officers, not the Igbos, please. The person that the military officers did that revolution, that would have even been the first beneficiary of the revolution, when they now released him from prison, what did he do? That's the ultimate strangeness in the spectrum of the bedfellows issue. They made him minister. And what were his policies? Call what is wrong, wrong. people saw that maybe with you there, they supported by, you abandoned them. And we are posturing alternative lies and falsehood and fabrications. The history is there. That's why they didn't want history in the school anymore. So, it's not fortuitous. If I wasn't there, if I wasn't born into that family, I probably wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing here now. Just like in so many other things, I've come to see that, like I said, things that I've experienced are no accidents. I've accepted them. Even my being here, at the right time in this program, I will bring those issues up. How they, reflect on what's going on, even in Nigeria now. What the relationship is. The gentleman behind me, he was like this. He survived. He's telling his own story. So I'm still trying to get across to him. At some point, I'll bring him on this program. Because what's important is for you to know what's going to happen to you. It's not jokes. World, no, you don't own nothing in the world. And if you are thinking what caused that war, guys, help me to put up Ilya Kashiankova's excerpt from the foreword so that you read. And this is not me. I read the book, but people wrote things in the book. I wrote what that's his perspective, perceived. Because in the Southwest, you didn't know anything. Nothing happened to you. But unfortunately now, the people in the Southwest are using their own hands to pull crisis and trouble to the Southwest. Again, it started from the Southwest. Some other people paid for it. I don't think it will be the same now. The only other thing I have, okay, the only other thing that I said is going to happen that is there, it's in the air now. You see, during that war, 1967, 1970, that is still in the air now. It's not ended. Never ended. Psychologically, positionally, it might not be shooting of guns. During that war, the rest of Nigeria fought just one portion of Nigeria. I said in this book, Biafra, lest we forget, that if politicians don't take time, the next time anything is going to happen in Nigeria, nobody will join anybody to fight anybody. Everybody will fight everybody. What's on ground now? No, what's on ground now? In the north, the Hausas are saying we are our own person. We've been dominated for too long. In the southeast, in the west itself, in north central. So you've had the first salvo of people you say are northern officers, failed coup. Is that the end of any trial? No. By a long shot, no. I'm not in the military. I don't have any friends. I don't know. But you don't have to be a soothsayer or Nicodemus or Nostradamus. We're not Nicodemus. You don't have to be Nostradamus to know that the postulations, the radicalization, it will not stop. Because the motive is not to develop Nigeria. The motive is for a group to continually be in charge, dictate what happens, whether they have somebody, if somebody else is there, that person must be their stooge, must be able to do exactly what they want done. But what is it that you want done? You can't even provide for your people. The people you call your people, you can't provide for them. Children are on the streets. They're not in school. Women cannot go to the farms. They cannot go to the market. You have governors, senators, House of Reps, local government chairmen, drawing money from, and people are living in refugee camps, and you have mouths to be able to talk at all. Freedom of speech, right? But I guess you are the only ones who have that right to freedom of speech. Other people have been arrested, being taken to court, being jailed for speaking out. But you can vomit all sorts of profanity, all sorts of treasonous statements, and you walk away. Wait. People are looking at it. They are afraid. Why are they afraid? Why are they strange bedfellows? They can't react. They can't hold them accountable because they are only thinking of elections, of holding on to power, of winning. Winning what? This is a time to sit. So you don't see the remaining part of this story, because the remaining part of this story is things will go from, well, I never really wore rags. We never really wore rags. My family were lucky by the grace of God. Okay? But are these children, are they even wearing rags? Is there even anything for them to wear for you to understand? Are they wearing clothes, even rags? Nothing. That's where you're headed. This time, you don't have the Igbos to blame. No, you don't have them to blame. All you are doing is to prevent one of them that could help you. You are blocking him. Saying he's the only problem Nigeria has. Every other person is a saint. I'm not rooting for anybody. I'm rooting for Nigeria. If there is Nigeria. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem so. So this is a good time for Nigerians, not Nigerian leaders, no, Nigerians, especially young people. I keep saying it. Form your own political party. Young Nigerians, please. It will blossom one day. Start. And you can register your own political party. Young Nigerians, come together from the different sections of, form a political party. Contest elections. Challenge these people. They don't mean well for you. Whether you are preaching, worshiping the same thing, speaking the same language, or answering the same things, don't mean jack to them. They are the same, regardless of whichever, most of the things they come out to say, they send themselves to come and say it so that it's not them that you heard it from. They will tell them now, you will go and say it so that they hear. Meanwhile, they are discussing how those things are going to happen behind. Yes. So, solution, we're not here just to, we're not here just to talk. Solution, young Nigerians, all of them in that picture, that military picture that I showed you, there's none of them that was 40 years old. Go and check the records. So in their 20s, 30s, Gowon was 31, I think, when he became head of state. So, young Nigerians, 40 years and below, go and form your own political party. Form it on the basis of age. And have principles and ideology. These people don't have. Their ideology is loot, steal, support themselves, cover up for themselves. That's the ideology. They don't care about you. They are clapping you into another war. In case you've not seen it. So this is a time to say, okay, let us stay in our regions. Vocalize it, organize, mobilize over it. Don't wait for America. America is going to come and divide Nigeria into 6 countries. In whose interest? You have the time to do that division, however you want to do it now, peaceably, talking. That's what I mean, peaceably. Now, not your National Assembly. When you mobilize enough, You will make the assembly and whoever is there to listen to you and do the right thing. Okay? Please, we have some questions here we'd have to quickly take. But before the questions, I want us to play. We always produce a short video. We'll play that short video quickly, and then we'll take the question, and then we'll call it a day today. Thank you.
1 kilometer means another language. Even half a kilometer means another language. Come and say. Come and say. Come and say. Come and say. Travel to Sokoto, then go speak Fulani. We go Bini City, then go speak Edo. Travel to Onitsha, then go speak Igbo.
These are the words Nigerian singer Evie Edna Ogholi sang in her 1988 song 1 Kilometer. 1 kilometer means another language. Even half a kilometer means another language. Nigeria is an extremely diverse country where language, culture, food, and customs can change within very short distances and spaces. These differences shape how communities live, how they relate to authority, and how local, regional and national events are experienced or responded to. When these realities are overlooked, misunderstandings grow and history repeats itself. If you are a Nigerian, or you care about the future of Nigeria, please watch till the end. Subscribe to Say a Prayer, guys. May Nigeria never happen to you. Share this video, and contribute your thoughts in the comments. We invite you to join our community that will keep saying what needs to be said about Nigeria and Nigerians. Evie Edna Ogholi was born on the 6th of July, 1966 in Isoko, Delta State, South Nigeria. She became widely known as a Nigerian reggae musician in the late 1980s for her music rooted in the everyday realities of life in Nigeria. Her song, 1 Kilometer, released in 1988, captures a simple but enduring truth about Nigeria. People living close to one another can experience the same country in very different ways, shaped by language, identity, and history. As clearly seen in Biafra, lest we forget, Dr. Richie Adewusi's real eyewitness account as a child who lived through the Biafra War, these differences carried severe consequences during the conflict. The war was a daily fight for survival experienced by civilians, as the soldiers who were supposed to defend the civilian populations became terrors and nightmares to southeastern population, especially children, women, and the elderly. Entire families were forced to flee their homes with little warning. Towns and cities emptied as people moved from place to place in search of safety. Many walked long distances without food, clean water, or medical care, and many children learned to recognize the sound of approaching aircraft and bombs before they could read or write. Hunger became a constant, which caused malnutrition, which weakened bodies and claimed countless lives, particularly among children, introducing previously unknown words and diseases like kwashiorkor. Language and place of origin often determined how people were treated. Crossing into a new area could mean entering a space where one could not communicate or explain who they were. Trust was fragile, leading to many people being killed due to simple misunderstandings. Assistance depended largely on chance encounters and the disposition of strangers. There were no markets, no hospitals, and schools shut down entirely. Daily life revolved around avoiding danger and finding something to eat, sometimes anything at all that moves. The war lasted for nearly 3 years, and its effects did not end when the fighting stopped. Many survivors carried and still carry physical injuries, psychological trauma, and disrupted childhoods into adulthood. Most families were permanently separated, and an entire generation grew up shaped by displacement, fear, and loss. These experiences were not shared evenly across Nigeria, yet they remain part of the country's collective history. Nigeria today still reflects these unresolved realities. National decisions are often made without sufficient attention to historical memory or regional experiences. The policies at work in Nigeria today tend to be applied broadly, even when local conditions differ sharply amongst regions. This gap between lived experiences and governance posturing continues to affect trust, participation, and national cohesion. 1 Kilometer, reminds us that understanding Nigeria requires attention to its many lived realities and acknowledging its diversity, not trying to change it by introducing policies to force Nigerians into who or what they are not and have never been, which leads to different types of resistance and strained inter-ethnic and inter-religious conflicts. Meaningful progress depends on recalling history, respecting cultural differences, and approaching governance with awareness of how policies affect people on the ground. Thank you for watching. Please share this video with friends and family. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss our upcoming videos. Our full live streams on this topic are now available on our YouTube channel at May Nigeria Never Happen to You. Please like, comment, share, and stay engaged. May Nigeria happen for all Nigerians, and for friends of Nigeria.
Okay, so welcome back from watching our short video. Yeah, Eviadna's 1 kilometer portrays the Nigerian universe. Nigeria is made up of people from, different culture, but they live together. The people don't always see any difference between themselves until the politicians start pointing things out to them. And unfortunately, the people themselves to swallow the plays of the politicians and begin to, you begin to fight your neighbor, your co-worker that you've known since that never offended you in any way. Now suddenly becomes a demon because a politician says so. Let's quickly look at the question so that we can then round this up. He said, how did adults around you explain what was happening during the war? They didn't. Nobody did anything. Like when my mother was, that we had to move from that Ibuku, our new house in Ibuku, we had to move to my grandmother's village. Before the war hadn't started, but things were happening, but we didn't know. They didn't explain anything, but she knew. She was wise and smart enough to do that. I will come to that in the course of telling the story. So they didn't explain anything. We were still just around. Even when we moved, for us, it was like, because we were sent, before, was sent up front to go to stay with our grandparents in a town, rural town called Umaoba. Okay, we went to stay with them there, and then suddenly all our properties arrived. Okay. And we have moved everything, so they didn't explain anything. We saw things unfold, really, without, how long did it take you to get over the traumatic experience? I have not. The more I'm seeing the things that are happening now, the more traumatized I am becoming again. There are some things that don't, I learned to cope. I learned to go get along. I learned to use activities in areas that I can make contributions to, work against some of those things that I have seen, read, experienced that led to that. I like to do things to involve everybody. Okay? That's been part of my coping mechanism. But the trauma is there. The more they are doing this, the more I'm remembering things that is refused to go. Okay? Did you encounter foreigners that came to help Nigerians during the war? A few, like especially in the refugee camps. Okay, like I mentioned, my aunt was a nurse. Okay, the doctors, the medical personnel, there were foreigners, mostly foreigners. Yeah, you see them. That was it. It wasn't about any. It wasn't about any military. It was more humanitarian service people. In the refugee camp, they were the ones who give meals, who supervise the distribution of stuff, You know, so yeah, I encountered them. If you were to put a value on how likely another war is Nigeria between 1 and 10, what would you say? I think it's around 9. Yes, I think it's solidly around 9. The way they are behaving now. I'm not wishing for it, not praying for it, but that's the crazy perspective. Okay, 5. The next question I said, did the Nigerian government not consider children in the site when setting up? Our Chief Abafemi Awolowo is on record saying that hunger is a strategy for winning a war, that you shouldn't feed your enemies. The same Chief Abafemi Awolowo, yeah, it's on record saying that. So it was a strategy they employed. They didn't care. Still don't care. Okay. At times, Nigeria's situation seems hopeless. Where would change? I don't know. I don't know this person. I don't know. But we need to keep talking. We need to keep talking. I don't know. But I'm thinking, you know, let me not leave on a note of hopelessness. I'm thinking the young people. I see a few young people online, you know, making sensible comments, but I do not support this whole idea of young people still teaming up, you know, in opposing camps. My region said this, my tribe, no, come together. Nigeria has more than enough. Young Nigerians, please come together. Forget your fathers, forget your grandfather, force them. Look at Senegal. Look at the president of Senegal. How old is he? Go and read his story. Come together. Stop social media influencer to form a political party. Start. It might not win the next election, but start. Please. What do you think of last year's coup plotters being tried? But we asked the question last episode, yeah, where are they? Why are they not? Who has heard? And then suddenly they're fine. I'm not saying it's the question I asked that made them to know. But the point here is, let Nigeria learn to hold people accountable for their actions or inactions. Let's stop labeling is because it's the North. It's because people do wrong things. Call them out for what they've done. Okay? If they've ganged up for whatever, and then don't stop there, especially with this, don't stop. Some people put them up to that. You've not gotten to the bottom. Well, they're still investigated. Then they should please be tried in not military trial. Be tried in they have military code. Maybe after the military war, maybe they are planning of. They should be tried in civilian. This is the civilian regime. Democratic regime should be tried in regular courts. Not what they did is against the nation. It's not against the military. What they are said, no, let me not conclude. What they are being accused of doing, what they are being tried for, is a crime, is treason against Nigeria, against the laws of Nigeria. It's not against their military codes alone. No, that's one there. Okay, but it's so they should be tried on that Nigerian law, not military law. Okay. Would you say there were specific reasons your whole family was able to survive the war, or was it all luck? It is good. That's all I can say. As we begin to get to my story, what about me? Let's start with me. Would I say the reason I survived? Look at these children. There were times I was alone, all alone. From that picture you saw of me, that age, I was about 7 when that war started. I was about 11 when it ended in 1970. There were long stretches of time I was alone with strangers, moving from place to place. I will come there. we'll get to those stories. And it's God. It's not any strategy. It's not any, just providence. It's God. And like I say, I believe that God had kept me so that I can tell the story on a day like this. So say, guys, don't let us go this way again. I wrote that book. The first thing they did was to start hounding me. Who paid you to write? Why should anybody pay any sane person to say, please don't let us do this again? But for it, I've lost everything in Nigeria. So fine. I'm here. And I still didn't say it's your problem, it's your business. Why? I don't want children like this. I don't want this kind of pictures again to come out of Nigeria. Incidentally, pictures like this are in Nigeria. Go to the IDP camps. They are there. It might not be this, but why should any Nigerians be in an IDP camp? Okay. So, well, I want to thank you all so very much today for joining us on our program, Say Prayer Guys, May Nigeria Never Happen to You. When we started this, people were, Richie, what is wrong? Nigeria is, I'm saying Nigeria is happening to all Nigerians in plain sight, and you don't see it. And you think I'm being negative. I'm not being negative. I'm asking you to face realities. Call things for what they are. Stop dreaming. Stop sleeping. I'm sharing mine. Share yours. YouTube is free for everybody to share yours. Speak out now. Soon you won't be able to. For one reason or the other. Soon you won't be able to. If Maria did not get to that to put a panel to share her story, she won't be part of the picture you're seeing. If this gentleman behind me did not write and post and say, look, I survived this. I was a child. I was like one of those children in that thing you are seeing. I won't put him up here to say, he's there. You can ask, we can ask these people. They're not the military telling about their prowess, about their conquest, about how they killed, they didn't kill. That's what the military have been doing. Justifying, glorifying. But they're not saying that when they say we conquer this place, it's people that they would have killed, including children and women. They're not saying those. That's the essence of this series, for you to see what happens to ordinary people like you and I, especially children, in the course of conflicts and wars. I was an eyewitness of one, and that's part of my Biafra story. We'll continue, okay, in episode 4 of my Biafra story. This same time, Friday, 1 p.m. West African time, including Nigeria, and 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, US and Canada. My name is Richie Adewusi. I will see you on the next one. Say prayer, guys. May Nigeria never happen to you. But our prayer on this program is always, may Nigeria happen for Nigeria and all Nigerians and friends of Nigeria. Thank you very much. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.